Welcome to Bad Gear, the show about the world's most hated audio tools. Over the last few weeks, this channel has been oscillating between Roland and Yamaha, so I thought it was about time to get another instrument of the third part of the unholy trinity of bad gear manufacturers on the show, the Korg S3 Rhythm Workstation. This mysterious 1991 drum machine is the stripped-down version of the Korg S1 flagship model. You have never heard of that groundbreaking product before? Me neither, mainly because it never saw the light of day. After the release of the hugely successful 1988 M1, Korg reached for world domination and announced the release of a series of complementary products, like the aforementioned S1. What they didn't take into account back then was the meteoric rise of computer-based sequencers and Roland selling boatloads of 1989 R8 drum machines. The S3 is the only instrument of that product range that was actually released. Although it offers many highly regarded features of the M1 in a drum machine form, Korg was a little late to the party and the S3 became a commercial failure. The other nail in the coffin of this powerful and complex machine was its cryptic UI. I am no stranger to obscure user manuals and maze-like menu structures, but this is outright sadistic.
At the first glance, the Korg S3 looks like the drum machine Bret Easton Ellis would have put in one of his 80s novels. The unit is super slick and the shiny surface must have looked really fancy for the first 3 weeks. M1 style buttons and display, a smooth running jog dial and velocity sensitive hard plastic drum pads with a loud and annoying. The uncluttered front stands in stark contrast to the busy rear panel. Slots for RAM and ROM cards that were used for generating additional revenue before subscription-based business models were a thing in music tech, 6 audio and 2 MIDI outputs, 2 foot switch checks and a sync interface for SMPTE LTC. I haven't used this standard for almost 20 years, leave a comment if you either wanna know about it or have used it recently. As I've already mentioned, operating the S3 is not always fun and games. The nucleus of the engine is a waveform that can be assigned to a turbra. These turbras also hold all the information for modulators, routing and the, hell yeah, 8-point envelope. A pad contains 2 turbras. The rationale behind this is that a drum consists of 2 elements, the head and the shell. They can be tweaked independently and I have to admit that this feature really whips the llamas. High-pitched attack with a tonal tail, Donkey Kong kicks, agogo bongos, it's all there. Of course, you can just play the samples. There are many classic late 80s drums, but also basic waveforms, a Moogish bass sample, and other oddities of that era. 16 of these pads form a kit you can either trigger via MIDI or using the internal sequencer. Performances can be recorded to a pattern consisting of 4 MIDI tracks, and these patterns can be arranged using the song mode that gives you another 4 sequencer tracks. In between all this madness, you can define complex velocity curves, MIDI compressor and expander, disco tom style pitch modulation, you can play sounds chromatically using rolls and flams, shuffle and quantize your stuff and edit the living hell out of every single aspect of your rhythm performance using the user interface of a pocket calculator. No, a pocket calculator at least has a numeric keypad. The internal FX processor is great, but there's no filter. Okay, you got it. That thing is deep. Dear S3 cracks, please forgive your young Padawan for forgetting your favorite feature and used prices are not what they used to be.
The Korg S3 has a lot of things to offer many people want, but it doesn't come as a surprise that they were turned off by the steep learning curve.
You have already heard the S3 in our little intro tune. The snare reminds me of one of those piccolos every band seemed to have in the 90s. I'm a bit ashamed to even say this, but it took me almost 2 full days to finally get to the point where I could squeeze some results out of this cursed machine. Yeah, and we haven't heard the Novation Sio for quite a while.
Okay, not everything was spot on, but I was blown away by the almost Yomox grade kick. Please keep in mind that this little exercise filled up about 2/3 of the S3's memory, so RAM cards are a must if you want to use the machine on a regular basis. I was also fighting some mysterious hum and noise issues. The non-drum waveforms are cool, but I really missed a filter for that. Let's add a little sonic spice mix to the S3 in this very electro-harmonics heavy jam. S3 and Hardware FX go together well. Using a more user-friendly sequencer not only helps to speed up the workflow, but also lets you focus on the sample player engine. Although most of the ROM sounds are generic late 80s material, the S3 allows for fresher tones too. I wanna know if we can get it to sound a little more colorful in this raw waveform bubblegum pop 2007 IDM groovescape. Verdict. The Korg S3 is mysterious in many ways. Its background story left me thinking that something must have been mighty wrong at Korg after the success of the M1. A well-made drum sound powerhouse would have shaken the music tech market of the late 80s, but the S3 was released at least 2 years too late. The other mysterious thing about this drum machine is the soul-shattering user interface. Of all the instruments I had on the show, it took me the longest to learn even the most basics, which is a shame. The S3 has a lot of awesome features, the underlying concept is more advanced than the ones of its competitors at the time, and the samples are punchy, especially the kick drums. If you want to accept this challenge, you will be rewarded with a versatile and mostly cliché-free foundation for drum and percussion sounds. Ideal for people who are sick of the Roland classics and enjoyed playing Dark Souls blindfolded. Thanks for watching and see you next time! Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Feel free to like, subscribe, become a patron and leave a comment what other kind of gear you would like to see and hear on the show. Thanks to all my patrons for supporting the channel and welcome to the monthly vocoder shoutouts. We are going to start with tier 4. Thanks for watching, see you next time, and the vocoder of my choice today is the Korg K-Oscillator Pro. We are going to use a vintage AKG D190, still made in Austria. And of course, the tick in all the boxes tier. DJ Disc Machine asked for the Roland VT3 voice transformer, and we're using a fancy schmancy Neumann KSM 105.
Thanks, bro.
And another big shoutouts to
Christina.
Again, thank you so much for supporting the channel. See you next month.